Hello students, I welcome you all to Gnana Taranga. This is a CET program which is organized by the Department of Pre-University Education. I welcome you all once again. The chapter that I am going to discuss today is Living World. As you people know, this is the first chapter in first PUC. It is a very simple chapter which basically deals with what is actually a living organism. What are the characters that they exhibit? In this chapter, we also see how organisms are named, binomial nomenclature. Then we have taxonomic hierarchy, followed by different taxonomic aids. Taxonomic aids, nothing but which helps in the study of taxonomy. So to begin with, when do you call something is living? Generally, when I ask this question to my students, the answer that I get is, living organisms, they breathe, living organisms, they move, living organisms grow, living organisms reproduce. These are the answers that I generally get from my students. So there are many characters which makes us to identify that something is living. But all these characters are not called defining characters. So let me just tell you what are the general characters that you find in living organisms, and out of those which can be called the defining ones. So to begin with, one of the characteristic feature of living organism is growth. Any living organism will grow in the course of its lifespan. Another characteristic which you will observe is reproduction. Most of the organisms before they die make it a point to produce their offsprings. Another characteristic feature that you find in living organism is metabolism. Then there are other characteristic features like reactions which take place within the cells. So let us see actually when do you call something living. Now if you consider the characteristic feature growth, growth is found in all the organisms. But growth alone cannot be considered as all-inclusive character which will decide that something is living. Another characteristic feature, reproduction. Reproduction is nothing but production of the offspring or progeny. So can we call reproduction as all-inclusive characteristic feature of living organism? Here also a doubt is there. Some organisms like the workers in honeybees, mule, these are organisms which are living but still they cannot produce their offsprings. They are said to be sterile. Then can reproduction be called defining characteristic feature of living organism? Then what is it which can be called all-inclusive characteristic feature of living organism? One such characteristic feature is cellular organization and metabolism. Now if you see, organisms are made up of cells. We say the structural and functional unit. So these structural and functional units, they can exist independently. They can conduct all the work which is required to be alive. Inside a cell, there are number of reactions which take place, biochemical reactions. The sum total of all these reactions are called metabolism. So one of the all-inclusive defining character, what we say to call something is living is, they should be made up of cells and they should show metabolism. Another such very important characteristic feature of living organism is, whenever there is some sort of stimulus, living organism tend to respond to it. This is a very common feature which we generally see in case of plants, animals. A plant which is kept in a room where light is unilateral, that is light is coming from one side, if you see the plant tends to move or it will curve towards that side. This is because it is moving towards sunlight, or the response is in the response that it is showing is in response to sunlight. Similarly, even we organisms also, for example human beings also, we also show different responses. Suppose if you are not happy with something, we show our anger. Suppose if there is something which is too hot, we touch it, we will remove our hand. These are all nothing but what we call very important characteristic feature which defines living organisms. That doesn't mean that growth and other characteristic features like reproduction are not important. All these things are required to call something living. Growth, reproduction, cellular organization and metabolism, then response to stimulus. And in this, cellular organization and metabolism and what you call response to stimuli are all inclusive characteristic features of living organisms. Now, there is something called taxonomy. Taxonomy can be defined as a branch of biology that deals with identification, then naming and classification of organisms. Father of taxonomy, Carolus Linnaeus, he had classified organisms, to be specific, he had classified plants into different groups. He had classified living organisms into two groups, that is animals and plants. So there are so many organisms which exist on earth. So it becomes mandatory to classify these organisms so that we can study these properly. So when we are classifying these organisms, we have to look into similarities and dissimilarities. So based on whether they have common features or they differ from each other, we are going to classify or group organisms into different levels. So these different levels are actually called taxa. A single level or rank is called taxon. So a set of such levels is called taxonomic hierarchy. So according to this hierarchy based on similarities and dissimilarities, we are going to organize all the living organisms stepwise, and this is called taxonomic hierarchy. Finally, this chapter tells us about the different types of aids which are available, which will help us to study taxonomy. In this, one of the taxonomic aid which we have is herbarium. What is actually herbarium? Herbarium is nothing but to collect plant species, press them, dry them and preserve them on sheets. This is herbarium. By preserving in this manner, whenever we want to study any plant, we can take out this preserved sheet and have a study of the organism. Another taxonomic aid that we have, taxonomic aid which has been mentioned in this chapter is botanical garden, zoological park, then taxonomic keys. Let me tell you something about taxonomic keys. What are actually taxonomic keys? Now, taxonomic keys are actually set of characters. These characters generally have the alternate kind of traits of a particular character. So using this, you can classify the organisms. So this is nothing but taxonomic keys. Then we have other mechanisms also, for example flora, then we have catalog, which is brief description of few species given in a particular area. All these things are taken as taxonomic aids in this chapter. So without any more delay, let us see the questions. The first question, in the below mentioned characters, which are the defining properties of living organisms? Friends, I have already explained this. Let us see the options. Growth and metabolism, growth and reproduction, cellular organization, metabolism, consciousness and response to stimuli, reproduction only. So if you observe these, as I told you in the beginning, growth and metabolism is important, growth and reproduction is also important, but these two are combination of characters which are not the all-inclusive defining features of living organisms. Cellular organization, metabolism, consciousness and response to stimuli has the maximum number of important characteristic features of living organisms. Last one, reproduction only is also a wrong option. So here you can see that the right answer is option C. Now, so once again I would like to tell the right option over here is cellular organization, metabolism, consciousness and response to stimuli. So here the right answer being C. Now let's see the next question. In classification of organisms, taxon is, the options are population of one type, population of individuals with similar genotypic and phenotypic traits, a group of related species, a taxonomic group of any rank. So according to the explanation, by this time you might be knowing that a taxonomic group of any rank is the right answer. The other options which are mentioned over here, for example, option C, a group of related species. You are aware that related species which are grouped into a rank called genus. So all these are different or wrong options just to confuse you people. So the right one is a taxonomic group of any rank. Let's see the next question. Pick the taxonomic aids included under in situ conservation. Before looking into the options which are provided, let me first tell you about what is actually in situ conservation. Now, conservation is nothing but protection of living organisms. These are basically of two types. Organisms can be protected in their habitat itself. Habitat means their dwelling place or where the organisms live, natural system. So, the organisms can be protected in their natural environment, or the organisms can be brought to man-made places where it can be protected. Then it is called ex situ conservation. So there are two types. In its habitat itself is called in situ, on site, wherever it is present. Ex situ, they are taken to man-made habitats or they are taken to other places where they can be conserved. So with this information, let us see what are the options. National park, sanctuary, botanical garden, biosphere reserve and museum. So if you look into the options properly, national park, sanctuary, biosphere reserve, these three options belong to the category of in situ. That is, in a national park or a biosphere reserve or a sanctuary, it is a huge place which is under the control, where the organisms cannot be, no hunting can be done or plants cannot be taken. It is completely a protected area. And all these organisms are found in its dwelling place itself. That's why national park, then biosphere reserve, sanctuary, all these things are the right answers. But options like museum and botanical garden. Let me just tell you what is actually botanical garden. The plants which you see in a botanical garden, they are all brought from different places and grown in a large area. This is basically to have a study of all new plants which are not available in the nearby places, or to increase the aesthetic value. You can see to which family the particular plant belongs to, or what are some special features which are found in these plants. So like that, the plants are brought to a particular area and there they are protected. That is a botanical garden. So here again it is an ex situ kind of conservation. Museum, as you all know, it is a man-made place where all the organisms are stored so that you can go any time and observe these. So the right answers are national park, then sanctuary and biosphere reserve. So it is 1, 2 and 3. Okay, you can see it is the right options 1, 2 and the next one is 4. A is the right answer. Let's move on to the next one. A population of interbreeding individuals is called. Now, let us see the options which are given below. Kingdom, division, genus, species. Species is actually the basic, you can see the last unit of classification in a taxonomic hierarchy. What is actually species? A group of organisms which morphologically resemble each other, and if they interbreed, are in a position to produce fertile offsprings, then they are said to be species. In short, a group of morphologically similar organisms which can interbreed to produce fertile offsprings are called species. So here the right answer, a population of interbreeding individuals, is called option D, species. Genus is nothing but a rank which has similar type of species. Division, it also is again a rank. Kingdom is also a rank. So here interbreeding individuals which can produce fertile offsprings is nothing but species. Let's see the next question. Carolus Linnaeus is described as, we can see the options: father of ancient botany, father of taxonomy, father of biology, father of genetics. So here in the beginning itself I had told you that Linnaeus has contributed a lot to taxonomy, classification of living organism. So here Linnaeus is the option which is right among this, father of taxonomy. Along with this, I would like to also tell you what are the other people: father of ancient botany, father of biology, and father of genetics. Theophrastus is father of ancient botany, father of biology Aristotle, and father of genetics, as you all know, Mendel. So the right option B, father of taxonomy. Next, a monograph provides. Let me first tell you what is actually a monograph. In the beginning when I was telling, there are different aids or there are different things which will help in taxonomic studies. So in them you can see there are number of taxonomic aids like monograph, catalog, keys, zoological park, botanical garden, herbarium. All these things are different aids which will help in taxonomic studies. So in the options you can just see complete information about a particular rank level of a taxonomic category, the list of characters and their alternatives which are useful in taxonomic studies, registers the species present in a particular place with brief description, actual account of habitat and distribution of plants of a given area. So in all these things, if you just try to see which is the right answer over here, it is the list of characteristic features and their alternatives which are useful in taxonomic studies. It is keys, which I had mentioned early. Register the species present in a particular place with brief description. I had again mentioned it is catalog. Actual account of habitat and distribution of plants of a given area is the right answer. So option D. Now let's see the next question. The question consists of two statements, each printed as assertion and reason. While answering these questions, you are required to choose any one of the following responses. So assertion, it is a statement, and you can see there is a reason also given for that, something which is connected to the statement given above. So the options will be in the manner whether both are correct or whether one of them is correct. Apart from that, in case if both are correct, is it the right reason to support the first statement? So let us see what are the options which are given. So here you can see, let us first see what is the assertion point. Reproduction is an all-inclusive defining feature of living organisms. So when I was explaining to you people, I had told you reproduction is very important feature which you find in living organisms. But there are organisms which are incapable of reproducing. For example, worker bees, then mule, all these things cannot reproduce. And couples who cannot produce kids, infertile couples, all these are still living organisms. So this statement proves to be wrong. Living organisms produce their offspring by reproduction. It is a correct statement. Living organisms reproduce their offspring by reproduction. So let us see what are the options given. A is true, that is assertion is true, and R is false. That is a wrong option. A is false, R is true. This is a correct option. Both A and R are true. That is wrong, so that option cannot be considered. Both A and R are true, and R is the incorrect explanation. This is also wrong. So here one of the statement, assertion, it is reproduction is an all-inclusive defining factor, is wrong. That is, assertion has to be false. So B is the right option. reason living organisms produce their offsprings by reproduction is a correct statement, but it is not a reason for it. So, the other options cannot be considered. B is the right answer. Let's see the next one. Match the following columns correctly. So, it is a very simple match the following which is given over here. If you try to observe carefully over here, we have selected binomial nomenclature over here. That is, we have considered the biological name of 4 organisms, 2 animals and 2 plants, and we have to match it. So, on the left hand side in column 1, you can see we have given the genus name, whereas the species name is mentioned in column number 2. So, let us see first one, Solanum. Solanum is the genus name and the species name is Nigrum. Then Panthera, this is the genus name and the species name is Pardus. Panthera pardus is nothing but leopard. Then the next one is Felis. Felis catus, it is nothing but cat. Then Datura, Datura stramonium. So, this is how we have to match. Let us see the options. So, in the options, A should be matched with 4. So, you can see B and C. These are the 2 options which are available. Let's see the next one. Panthera with, that is B with 1. So, let us see B with 1. So, this is the right option. Apart from that, if you just match it and see, all the other options are also matching with each other. So, D is the right option. 9. Question number 9 is basically about 2 statements. We have to just read the statement and find out which one is correct and which one is wrong. First statement, when handwritten, both the words in a biological name should be underlined separately. So, this statement is a correct one. When handwritten, scientific names, when we write it, we have to underline it separately. A biological name has specific epithet followed by generic name. So, before explaining or picking the right option, let me tell you what are the rules of binomial nomenclature. Giving a name with 2 contents to an organism, that is, giving a scientific name with 2 contents to an organism is called binomial nomenclature. So, whenever we want to give a scientific name to an organism, 2 components are minimum required. So, the first component, it is the genus name, and the second one which follows it is the specific epithet or the specific name. So, the generic name or the genus name appears first and it is written in block letters or capital letter. It begins with capital. The first alphabet has to be written in capital. Following that, that is the second name is species name. Species name is always written in small letters. You should not begin it with capital letter. So, these are few rules. Apart from, we have to take the names from Latin or the existing names have to be Latinized. Then when you are typing it, it should be in italics. These are some of the rules of binomial nomenclature. So, here if you see the second option, a biological name has a specific epithet followed by generic name. That is, according to the statement, species name comes first followed by generic name. So, that is a wrong option. So, let us see. Statement A and B are false. Both are false. This is wrong. Statement A is true but B is false. So, this one is right. Statement A and B both are true. Statement A and B is statement A is false but statement B is true. This is also the wrong option. So, the right option is B. Now, pick the odd one out. Let us see the 4 options given. Jim Corbett National Park, Botanical Garden, England, Indian Botanical Garden, Howrah, National Botanical Institution, Lucknow. So, here when you see all these things, students, please make a note of it. It is not in India, it is in England. So, you can see generally if it were to be typed properly, when you go through the options, chances are that we might feel that this is the odd combination, that is B is the odd combination, just because it is a foreign country, whereas rest all belong to India. But that is just to mislead you people. If you observe carefully, the last three options, botanical garden, botanical garden, botanical garden, only the first one, Jim Corbett National Park. This is a national park. That's why the right option, the odd one out of the four, is Jim Corbett National Park, option A. Next question, which is incorrect? We have to pick the false statement, or the statement which is not correct. Homo sapiens, okay, Homo sapiens, Hominidae, Primata, Mammalia, Chordata. Triticum aestivum, Poaceae, Poales, Dicotyledon and Angiosperms. If you just go through all these, you will come to know that what is mentioned over here is the biological name, that is genus and species, and it is followed by family. It is followed by, after the family, you can see that they have mentioned the order, then they have mentioned the class, and finally the division. So it goes in the same manner. But if you try to observe carefully, you can see that in option 2, Triticum aestivum, that is wheat, Poaceae. Wheat, as you people know, it is a grass variety. So Poaceae, Poales, all these are correct. But if you just observe this one, Dicotyledon, you know that grass variety, it will be generally monocotyledon, that is, they will produce only one cotyledon. So Triticum aestivum is not a dicotyledon, it is actually a monocotyledon. So this option has got a wrong information in it. Now the next one, if you just go through Musca domestica, then diphtheria, insecta, arthropoda, all these are the right taxa of this particular organism. If you observe in Mangifera indica, that is in mango, you can see that clearly the option should show that there is a misleading one over here, which is monocotyledon. You know that mangoes, before producing the mangoes, the mango trees, they produce what is called flowers. White flowers are produced on the tree. So when these produce flowers, you can observe that these flowers, they belong to the dicot category. And if you see the seed, cut open the seed and try to observe, it will show the presence of two cotyledons. That's why this is a wrong information. It belongs to dicotyledonous characters, dicotyledon. So here two of the options are actually wrong in this. So let us see the options. So here you can see that which is incorrect. So the incorrect ones are 2 and 4. So B is the right option. Now let us see the next set of questions. These set of questions belong to the topic biological classification. So before starting with the question, my dear friends, I would like to tell you about what this chapter basically deals with. As you all know, biological classification is a chapter which basically deals with the different types of classifications which are done, how actually living organisms were classified. So the chapter starts with how all the living organisms were classified into 2 kingdom, then 3, 4 and finally to 5 kingdom classification. Then you can also see that here in this chapter we are also dealing with some of the organisms. We cannot call them organisms actually, some entities we can say, or some components or some entities. These entities, they do not have any place in all these classification. So this chapter also tells why these entities, they do not have any place in the 5 kingdom classification. This also is given in this chapter. So biological classification starts with the different types of classification, wherein 5 kingdom classification is explained in detail. So 5 kingdom classification shows the different kingdoms which are involved in it. So to begin with, let me just give you an idea how 5 kingdom classification came into origin. Initially it was Linnaeus who classified living organisms into 2 kingdoms, only 2 kingdoms, and it was the 2 kingdom classification where the 2 groups which were available was Plantae and Animalia. all living organisms were just divided among these two groups. Then comes the next one, that is the three kingdom classification. It was done by E. Haeckel. So here a new kingdom was added, that is kingdom Protista. This Protista kingdom, if you observe, it was exclusively meant for organisms which were not huge plants, neither these were huge animals. So they were all grouped into a group called Protista. Then came the four kingdom classification. When when four kingdom classification was observed carefully, we could see that in four kingdom one more new kingdom was added, which is called Monera. So Monera is a kingdom which is exclusively meant for all the prokaryotic organisms. Dear students, as you know, organisms, they might have a true nucleus or they might not have a true nucleus. So the one which have true nucleus, they are all grouped under what is called eukaryotes, and the one which do not have a true nucleus, that is a nuclear membrane and nucleus, all these organization, if it is not there, then such organisms are called prokaryotes. Monera was an exclusive kingdom which was provided for such organisms, that is the prokaryotes. So that was the four kingdom classification given by Copeland. And finally the five kingdom classification. So five kingdom classification, if you see, it was R.H. Whittaker. It was R.H. Whittaker who gave the five kingdom classification. So according to the five kingdom classification, if you see, one more new group was added, a new kingdom was added. And what is this new kingdom? It is nothing but fungi, or which can also be called mycota. So fungi or mycota was an exclusive group which was given for organisms which were all heterotrophs. They cannot prepare their own food and their body was made up of something called hyphae or mycelia. So such organisms were placed in a group called fungi. So with this new kingdom fungi, five kingdoms were produced formed. And this classification is called the five kingdom classification, which was given by R.H. Whittaker. So one by one in this chapter we are going to study about what are the Moneran characters. So you know the main feature is they do not possess nuclear membrane or true nucleus. In this group you will be studying groups like bacteria, you will be studying about archaebacteria, then you people are going to study simple forms where nucleus is not present. So apart from these, you can also find the next group which you people have to study, which is Protista. All the unicellular organisms are grouped here. So in this group you will find all the smaller organisms which are unicellular in organization. Then following this you are going to study the next one, which is mycota. As I told you, you are going to study different classes of fungi. Then the next chapter which you people have to study is, the next kingdom which you have to study is Plantae and then Animalia. So one by one we will see what are the questions which are given based on these. So which is the parasitic plant? Let us see the options. Before that, let me tell you what are parasitic plants. Parasitic plants are the plants which live on other plants, which we generally call host plants. So on the host plants or on some other living organism, they will be living and they keep on deriving nutrients which are prepared by the host, and they do not prepare food of their own. Such plants are called parasitic plants. Let's see the options: bladderwort, then cuscuta, Venus flytrap, mycorrhiza. If you see, bladderwort and Venus flytrap, these are actually insectivorous. These are actually insectivorous plants. Insectivorous plants are the plants which capture insects for the nitrogen metabolism which they require, or for the requirement of nitrogen they capture insects. Such plants are called insectivorous plants. So these two belong to that category. Then one more option which is given is mycorrhiza. Dear students, you all know that mycorrhiza is actually an association between two components. The association is basically between algae and fungi. So it is not a plant, it is a symbiotic association. I would like to clear here, mycorrhiza, it is an association between fungus and the roots of higher plants. Please make a note of it, dear students. Mycorrhiza is nothing but fungus and roots of higher plants found in an association. Here the fungus, they derive minerals and water and provide it to the roots, and the roots of the higher plants, they prepare food and give a small portion of the food to fungus. So this kind of an association is called mycorrhiza. So obviously it is not a plant. Then the right answer has to be B. So here B is the right answer for question number 1. Now let us see the next one. Which of the following is not a feature of cyanobacteria? So here the options are blue-green algae. So you know that cyanobacteria belongs to the blue-green algae type. Then biofertilizer, heterocyst and heterotrophic. Now what is the meaning of biofertilizer? Any organisms or any products or parts of organisms that you use to increase the fertility of a soil is called a biofertilizer. So it is observed that cyanobacteria is extensively used in paddy fields because they have a unique feature to fix the atmospheric nitrogen into absorbable forms. So if you try to observe here, there is one more option, that is heterocyst is found. Now for example, if you see a cyanobacteria, it is a filamentous form, for example in case of nostoc. So if you see the vegetative cells, here and there are some cells which are larger in size and they show a typical shape in this manner with a nodule. These are actually called the heterocyst. So these heterocyst, what are these? These are specialized cells which have the capacity to fix nitrogen. So this is also a right option. They can be used as a biofertilizer, as well as you can say heterocyst is also found. Now what is the meaning of heterotrophic? Heterotrophic means the organisms cannot prepare food on their own. They are called heterotrophic organisms. You are very well aware that blue-green algae, they have green pigments for absorbing sunlight and they can prepare food on their own. So here the wrong option is heterotrophic. So which of the following is not a feature of cyanobacteria? The right answer is D. Match the pathogens in column 1 with their mode of nutrition given in column 2. Let us just go through the questions. Let us just go through the options. In column 1, you can see there are some pathogens given, or pathogens are nothing but disease causing organisms. So if you try to observe trypanosoma is actually a flagellated protozoan. This is a notorious organism, or it is known for a bad reason. It causes a disease called sleeping sickness. Puccinia, it is a parasitic fungi. This parasitic fungi causes the disease rust. Viroid is actually an infectious RNA, that is an RNA strand which has the capacity to cause disease. So here the disease caused by a viroid is potato spindle tuber disease. It is caused by the viroid potato spindle tuber viroid. Then next is entamoeba. Entamoeba, it is known to cause the disease amoebiasis. Amoebiasis is nothing but, you can also called amoebic dysentery. So amoebic dysentery or amoebiasis is caused by Entamoeba histolytica. So Entamoeba histolytica, this is a amoeboid type of protozoan which is capable of causing amoebiasis. And then Plasmodium. Plasmodium is the pathogen which causes the disease malaria. Whenever we speak about malaria, suddenly we consider Anopheles mosquito as the causal organism. But dear students, it is just a vector. Vector means it is an organism which carries the disease causing organism. So female Anopheles mosquito is not the one which causes the disease, but it is Plasmodium, which causes malaria disease. So you can see these are the matched answers. Let us see the options over here. So when you see the options, A should match with 3. So this is the only option which is seen. If you just go on matching the other, it also correctly matches. So this is about match the following, which is given in question number 3. Now again there is a category of assertion and reasoning. Let us see the first statement. In the three kingdom classification, a new kingdom called Protista was formed. Okay. So in the three kingdom classification, a new kingdom called Protista was formed. This is the right statement. As I told you in the beginning, it was E. Haeckel who actually felt the necessity to add the eukaryotic organisms into a new group called Protista. Now let us see here. As some microscopic unicellular forms were unlike plants and animals altogether and could not be placed in appropriate kingdoms, a new kingdom was formed by E. Haeckel. So this is also correct. Now you can see the options given below. So here A is true, R is false is the wrong one. Both A and R are true is correct, and R is the correct explanation. Okay. A is false. This is a wrong option. Both A and R are true, but it is not the correct explanation, is a wrong statement in this, because it is the correct explanation. So the right option is B. Now, which of these is correct for mycoplasma? Identify the answer from the options given below. So let us see the first one. They are the smallest living cells. They lack cell wall. They can survive without oxygen. Many are pathogenic forms. So mycoplasma, this is the smallest organisms to be, living cells to be known. So this is right. They do not have cell wall. This point is also absolutely right. It is just protoplasm which is not having the outer covering of cell wall. They can survive in the absence of oxygen. That is also right. Many are pathogenic form. Many of the mycoplasma, they cause different diseases, for example, witch's broom disease. All these things are some of the diseases caused. So all the options which are given below are correct. So here the right one which you have to pick over here is 1, 2, 3 and 4. This is the right one which you people have to select. A, option A. So now let's see the next question. The sixth question is an assertion followed by a reason. Class Deuteromycetes is commonly known as imperfect fungi. The reason, sexual reproduction is not known in the members of Deuteromycetes. Now students, before going to the options, let me tell you what are actually Deuteromycetes. Now this belongs to the kingdom Mycota or kingdom fungi. So as you people know that fungi is classified again into different classes: Phycomycetes, then Ascomycetes, Basidiomycetes and Deuteromycetes. The question is based on Deuteromycetes. Deuteromycetes are the organisms where the sexual reproduction is not yet known. It is believed that once the sexual reproduction of the organisms which are grouped in this group are known, they might have to be placed in the other classes like Phycomycetes, Ascomycetes or in Basidiomycetes. So right now these are the fungi where we know how is the mode of asexual reproduction, but we are not aware of the sexual mode of reproduction. Such fungi are placed in the group called Deuteromycetes. That's why they are also called fungi imperfecti or imperfect fungi. So let us see what are the options available over here. The first one, both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation of A. Okay. So as you people know that class Deuteromycetes is commonly known as imperfecti is a right statement. sexual reproduction is not known in them is also a right. So A and B are true, and A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation. Obviously it is the correct explanation. Why? Because they are called imperfecti, because the sexual reproduction is not known in them. So here the first option itself is the correct one. Then the next one, like you see, A is true, B is false, then false and true, all these things are the wrong options. So you can conclude that the question number 6 has the right answer in option A. Now the next question, statements. Let us see statement A. Bacteria can also reproduce by a sort of sexual reproduction called conjugation. Statement B. Some bacteria fix nitrogen. My dear students, let me tell you something about conjugation. Now, bacteria, they reproduce by various methods. Some they reproduce by a sexual method such as binary fission. Then they can produce spores, especially when the climatic conditions or the surrounding conditions are unfavorable. They go for what is called production of spores, and when the spore breaks open, new bacterial cell comes out. Hence it is also called a type of reproduction. So these are different methods of asexual reproduction that we observe in bacteria. Now bacteria, just try to recall, students, monera. Bacteria is a monera. So here the sexual reproduction is not well developed, or it is not happening, but some process or a phenomenon which resembles sexual reproduction takes place over here. We are aware what is actually sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is nothing but exchange of genetic material. When two gametes fuse by a process called fertilization, the genes or the DNA mixes, and this is the base of sexual reproduction. So here you can see there is exchange of DNA which takes place. So because exchange of DNA is taking place, it can be considered to be a sort of sexual reproduction, though it is not a true sexual reproduction. So what is the reason that it is not a true reproduction? The reason is true reproduction involves the sex cells, or what we call gametes. So there is no formation of gametes over here. That's why it is not a sexual reproduction, but it mimics or it resembles a sexual reproduction by the DNA transfer which takes place. So here when you consider about the DNA transfer, the sexual mode of the reproductions which resemble like sexual reproduction, two bacterial cells come close to each other, and there is a contact between these two bacteria where one of the bacteria will give a small part of the genetic material or DNA to the other bacterial cell. So this process is actually called conjugation. So conjugation is exchange of DNA between two cells which are in contact with each other. So the statement A is correct. Now statement B. Some bacteria fix nitrogen. This is also true. When we study the different functions or the economic use that we have from bacteria, we study that they are involved in processes like fermentation, production of curd, then production of food items like idli, dosa, all these things require bacteria. Apart from that, some produce antibiotics, then some causes diseases. One more function is fixing of nitrogen, that is they are involved in converting atmospheric nitrogen into the absorbable form. So this statement is also right. So let us see the options. So here you can see that statement A and B both are true. The other options which are given over here are wrong. Eighth one, pick the incorrect statement about lichens. Dear students, before picking the options, let me tell you what are actually lichens. Now, if you try to see the living organisms, some organisms, they exist in the form of associations. For example, lichen, mycorrhiza, these are all associations which are seen in nature. What is actually lichen? Lichen is nothing but an association between algae and fungi. So when the association is observed, you can see that it has actually two components, or it is having two parts in the association. So here it is a mutually beneficial association. Both the organisms are getting benefited here by this association. So the two types of components which are present over here are, let me just tell you what are the components. One of the component is algae, another one is fungi. Okay, the algal component is called phycobiont and the fungal is called mycobiont. So in this manner you can see two components are there, the fungal component and the algal component. They are found in a mutually beneficial association. So what is the use of this association? Here, when the algal cells and the fungal filaments are in an associated form, fungi, they can absorb water and minerals and provide it to algae. Whereas algae, they have the capacity to photosynthesize. So using the raw materials which are provided by fungus, it is going to prepare food and give a small portion to fungus, because fungi, they are heterotrophic and they cannot prepare food on their own. So here both are mutually benefited. Algae gets the raw materials for photosynthesis and fungi gets food. So this kind of a mutually beneficial association is actually called lichens. Let us see the options and decide. We have to pick here the incorrect statement, the false statement. Symbiotic association between algae and fungi. This is the right option. This is a right statement. The phycobiont is autotrophic. As I told you, the algal component is called phycobiont. Phycobiont helps in preparation of food. That is, something which prepares food is said to be autotrophic. So here phycobiont is the autotroph. The phycobiont is autotrophic in association is also correct. Lichens are good pollution indicators as they grow in polluted areas. Let us look at this option carefully. At a look, if you see, lichens are good population indicators. This particular thing is a correct statement. It is indeed a good pollution indicator. It indicates pollution. But how is the next question? Lichens indicate pollution by not being present in polluted areas. So suppose if in a given place there is lot of pollution, you will not find lichens over there. So if lichens are there, it indicates that the area is not polluted. But if you read the statement, lichens are good pollution indicators as they grow in polluted area, is a confusing or misleading option, because lichens are good pollution indicators because they do not grow in polluted areas should have been the statement. Now next one, crustose, foliose and fruticose are the types of lichens. You might have studied in your practicals that lichens are of three types. Crustose, which just has a thallus-like appearance, a crust which gets attached to tree bark and trunk of the trees, etc. Foliose. Foliose means leaf-like. Here the body of the thallus, body of the lichen is little bit leaf-like. And fruticose, this is nothing but it is extended into larger forms which have stem-like, you can see, or elongated parts with leaf-like attachments. So this is also correct. So as a result, you can see over here that C is the wrong option. So pick the incorrect statement, then the answer for this is option C. Which of these is the correct combination of viral diseases? So here you can see the options are given below: influenza, HIV, herpes and cholera, tetanus, mumps, smallpox, herpes, influenza, mumps, smallpox, herpes, typhoid, cholera, smallpox and HIV. Dear students, if you try to observe these options properly, you can see that Influenza, HIV, herpes as well as mumps, these are all viral diseases. Tetanus is caused by bacteria. Cholera is also caused by bacteria. So the question is, which of these is the correct combination of viral diseases? So you need to have in the options only you should have in the options only viral diseases, not any disease of bacterial origin. So these are all having diseases which are caused by bacteria. Vibrio cholerae is a bacteria which causes cholera. So in this manner you can find that only C, option C is the right answer over here. Next, question number 10. The digestive tracts of ruminant animals contain methanogen. Methanogens produce methane. That is the reason given over here. Now, my dear friends, let me tell you about what are methanogens. So, when we were studying the chapter Monera, we have studied about different types of monerans. One of the unique group that we have studied in kingdom Monera is Archaebacteria. So, we have studied Archaebacteria. What is this Archaebacteria? Now, if you try to see what are Archaebacteria, these are also bacteria, but they are unique from the normal bacteria. They are different from the normal bacteria. Why? Because these are the bacteria which can live in extreme habitats, or they can live in extreme environmental conditions. Too hot, too acidic, too saline, too acidic, all these mediums they can live without any problem. You are all aware that normal bacteria cannot survive in extreme conditions. For example, we make pickle at home. So when we are doing pickles, we are going to add lot of salt in the pickle. The reason for adding lot of salt is because the presence of salt will kill the bacteria and will not allow bacteria to grow in them. So you know that salt is extreme content of salt can kill the bacterial cells. Similarly, if you want to preserve food for a longer time, we can heat the food and keep it for the next day as well. That is because when you heat, bacteria die. So like this, normal bacteria die when there are extreme conditions. If you keep food in refrigerator, you can prevent food from spoiling. That is because other organisms or normal bacteria cannot survive in very low temperature. But these bacteria called Archaebacteria, they have the capacity to live in extreme conditions which might be too hot. For example, very hot water vents which are present in nature. Near volcanic eruptions they are found. In saline water they are found. So they can survive in extreme conditions. So Archaebacteria is again divided into different types. So there are three types. Methanogen is one of them. So the first one is thermoacidophils. They love hot temperature as well as high acidity. Without any problem, they can live in such kind of atmosphere or such kind of environmental condition. Halophiles. Halophiles are the Archaebacteria which can live in places where the salt content is very high. And the third one is methanogens. Where can you find methanogens? Methanogens are generally found in methane rich areas. They produce methane. So let us see the first sentence. Assertion: the digestive tract of ruminant animals contain methanogen. So this is actually a correct statement. Reason: methanogens produce methane. Okay, this is also a correct statement. But if you see, this second statement has to be a reason for the assertion. But if you see, methanogens produce methane is not the right reason to support this assertion. Why? Because the digestive tract of ruminants, they show the presence of methanogen because they have the capacity to digest the cellulose which is present in plant cells, or the plants which the ruminant animals means basically cattle like cow, buffalo, all these things. So they have to break down the cellulose present in the plant. For that, methanogens are very helpful. So that should have been the reason over here. So both the statements are correct, but it is not the right reason. So let us see the options over here. A is true, R is false. Okay, both A and R are true, but R is the correct explanation. This is also wrong. A is false because it is a correct statement. Both A and R are true, but R is not the correct explanation. This is the right option. Both the statements are true, but methanogens produce methane. It is not the reason or justification which will support assertion. That's why D is the right option. Next, we will see a new chapter. The topic is Animal Kingdom. So here, if you see in this topic Animal Kingdom, we are going to study about a diverse group which is called animals. Now let us see about animals few things. This group called Animal Kingdom, what we say Kingdom Metazoa, or we can say Kingdom Animalia, it comprises of huge organisms. To specify, eukaryotic organisms which lack cell wall. Cell wall is absent in the cells of these organisms. They are heterotrophs, that is, they cannot prepare food on their own. Then these are multicellular organisms, that is, they are made up of many cells. So what is actually an animal, or what are the organisms that you find in Kingdom Animalia? You find heterotrophic eukaryotic organisms which are multicellular in nature, and the cells do not possess a cell wall. So in this chapter called Kingdom Animalia, what are the things that you people are going to study? In this chapter, we are going to study some of the fundamental characteristic features which are required for classifying animals. So if you try to observe carefully, we can see that the organisms which are present around us, they are of different types. Different types of organisms are found. Some are simple, some are very complex, some are small, some are huge. Like this, different types of organisms are present around it. So if you want to study all these things properly, a clear-cut manner of classification is required. Now, how to classify the organisms? That is the next question. So if you want to classify organisms, we need to take into account some fundamental features. So though the organisms, they appear to be different from one another, there are some features which are common in these organisms, or we can see such characteristic features are common in most of the organisms. So taking into account such characteristic features, we can classify the organisms based on the simplicity or complicity. So the next question is, what are actually these characteristic features that we have to look into? One of the simple fundamental factor or fundamental characteristic feature is organization of the body. The body, as I told you, is made up of multicellular organisms. So here, when you observe carefully, the organism's body is made up of many cells. When you try to observe these cells, in some organisms like porifera, the cells are simply loose aggregation of, the body is made up of loose aggregation of cells. The cells, they do not unite together to perform a particular function. Suppose if the cells, they act as a unit and perform a particular function, they are called tissue. So in organism like porifera, there is no tissue grade organization. The body is just organized at a cellular level. So it is a very simple type of organism. Now as and how you go ahead, you can see the cells get organized into tissues, then tissues into organs into organ system. So the higher phylums, you can see that they show the presence of organ system. So in this manner, there is as and how you go from the simple phylums to the higher one, you can see that the complicity goes on increasing from porifera to chordata. What are the other characters which can be taken into account? Apart from this, you can also take into account characteristic features like presence of coelom or absence of coelom. So the next question is, what is actually a coelom? So students, you might be knowing about something called tube within a tube. What is actually this tube within a tube? So before reading out the question, let me just tell you about what is this tube within a tube. See, if you take an organism in this manner, think that it is an organism in this manner. Hold the organism and take a section. So, if you take a section, you can see that in the section we will be in a position to see. If you cut it in this manner, you can see there are two tubes present, one tube inside the other tube. Okay. So, this condition what you observe is called the tube within the tube condition. So, what is this tube which is moving through the larger tube? So, this tube which you see is the alimentary canal or the gut of the organism. Okay. Suppose if this is the mouth and this is the anus, this tube is nothing but, which is going inside, is nothing but the alimentary canal, and the outer tube which is present, this one, is nothing but the body wall. So, there is a space between these two tubes. This space which is present, or if you say this is the body wall and this is the alimentary canal inside, this gap which is present between these two are called coelom. So, some organisms have this gap, then they are called coelomates. Some organisms, they do not have such kind of cavity or body cavity inside its body. Okay, they are called acoelomates, and some have false type of coelom. So, in the later questions I will discuss about all these things. So, this is about coelom. So, based on whether coelom is present or whether coelom is absent, one can decide whether what is the complexity of the organism. Similarly, another one is diploblastic or triploblastic nature. What is this diploblastic or triploblastic nature? So, here you can see that some organisms, when they are in the embryonic condition, you will be in a position to see that their body is basically made up of two layers, germinal layers what we say. So, since they have two germinal layers in their body, they are said to be diploblastic, outer ectodermal and inner endoderm. Okay. Then you people can also see some organisms where there is a middle layer which is called mesoderm, then it is said to be triploblastic. So, some organisms are diploblastic and some are triploblastic. Then there are other characteristic features which are very important, like presence or absence of notochord. So, if you try to see what is actually a notochord, it is actually a structure which appears to be like a rod like structure whose origin is from mesoderm. So, it is mesodermal origin, a rod like structure, this is called notochord. So, if the organisms have notochord, they belong to a particular phylum, for example chordata. If it is not present, then they belong to some other different type of phyla. So, these are some of the fundamental features which help us to classify the organisms. So, keeping in mind all these characteristic features, organisms are, or to be more specific, animals are classified into different groups, what we call phyla. So, totally 11 phyla we have to study in this chapter. So, if you see carefully which are the different phyla that appears in kingdom Animalia, it begins with a very simple phylum called Porifera, followed by Coelenterata, which is also called Cnidaria. Then comes Ctenophora, followed by Platyhelminthes, then Aschelminthes, Annelida. After that comes Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Hemichordata, and finally chordates. And as you know, chordates is again divided into subphylum like Urochordata, Cephalochordata, as well as vertebrata. Then vertebrates can again be classified into two groups. Some organisms which have jaws and some organisms which do not have jaws. The organisms which do not have jaws, they are grouped in a division which is called agnata, and the organisms which are having jaws, they are grouped in another division called gnathostomata. Now, when you see further, in case of there are different classes which we will study in this particular chapter. So, if you observe carefully in the division agnata, that is in jaw, the organisms which do not have jaw, there is only one class which is called cyclostomata. Now, in the division where jaw is there, again it is divided into two groups, the superclasses. One is Pisces. So superclass Pisces is actually characterized by the presence of fins. Okay, whereas the other group which comes under this division, that is called tetrapoda. Poda means leg. So those organisms, they have legs, and Pisces have fins. So under Pisces you are going to again study two more classes, which is chondrichthysis and osteichthysis. Then in tetrapoda we are going to study the classes which are amphibia, you are going to study reptilia, aves as well as mammals. So let us start the questions and see what are the options. So the first question, classification of animals is based on the following characteristics. Select the correct answer from the options given below. So you can see the options are, you can see here, coelomic cavity, level of organization, notochord, sense organs. So these are some of the characteristic features which are mentioned. So as I told you before, organisms, if they have to be classified from simple to complex levels, they take into account some of the characteristic features. So one among them is the coelomic cavity, another one is level of organization, then we take into account what is called notochord, but sense organ, it is not considered to be a fundamental or basic feature which is used in classification. So let us see the options. One, so here you can see that in this you can see the options which are mentioned over here are coelomic, level of organization, notochord. This is a wrong option. So 1, 2 and 3. So the right option or the right answer is D, wherein sense organs is not included. Now let's see the next question. Statement A. Chordates are characterized by the presence of notochord. The notochord gets replaced by vertebral column in all chordates. Students, let me tell you what is to be carefully analyzed over here. Let us see the first statement. If you try to observe the first statement, it states that chordates are characterized by the presence of notochord. So, any organisms which show the presence of notochord in its life cycle, through it may be in a small in a restricted part, or it may be throughout its body, or it may be in the initial stage, later it may disappear. All these things are there, but if notochord is present in its life cycle, then such organisms are classified into the phylum called Chordata. So this statement is correct. Now statement B, the notochord gets replaced by vertebral column in chordates. So here what we have to, as I always tell to my students, whenever you are selecting the options, read the questions properly, because there will be minute information which we overlook and we end up selecting the wrong options. So here also there is a chance for that. If you read, see, we are all aware that chordates are the one which possess notochord. So here there are again 3 subphyla which are present. So the 3 subphyla of chordates, let me tell you which are those. So the first one to be mentioned is Urochordata. Then the next one, Cephalochordata and Vertebrata. These are the 4 subphyla. So in this, if you see, if you consider the organism, if the notochord is present only in the tail region, then it is called Urochordata. If the notochord extends from head till tail, it is called Cephalochordata. If the notochord gets replaced by a vertebral column, okay, if the notochord is replaced by vertebral column, then it is included in the subphylum Vertebrata. So now let us analyze the next the statement B once again. The notochord gets replaced by vertebral column in all chordates. This statement is again misleading. Here vertebral column gets replaced, notochord gets replaced by vertebral column only in vertebrata. It will not get replaced in urochordata or cephalochordata. That's why what we have to understand is the first statement is right but the second statement is wrong. So both statements A and B are correct is wrong. Both statement are wrong is also wrong option. Statement A is correct and B is wrong is the right option. So this is the right option for question number 2, that is option C. Let's see the next one. Identify the correct option showing arrangement of phyla according to the increasing complexity of body organization. So you can see here there are different types of organisms which are given over here. Depending upon the complexity, increasing complexity of organisms, that is you can see that the body goes on becoming from cellular organization to tissue grade organization, then from that to organ grade, then organ system grade. We have to identify which is the right one. So you can see, let us see the order: Coelentrates, Platyhelminthes, Annelida, Echinodermata. This has to be a correct one. Platyhelminthes, okay. Next is Coelentrata, then Annelida and Echinodermata. So you people are all aware that this shows tissue grade. Coelentrata, they show tissue grade kind of organization, whereas Platyhelminthes gives organ grade. So here there is a wrong order in increase. So this is a wrong option. Coelentrates, Annelida, Platyhelminthes, Echinodermata. Here you can once again see that they have placed Annelida before Platyhelminthes. Annelida, they have organ system of classification. So here also there is a misarrangement, or the how the phyla are arranged is improper. Echinodermata, Annelida, then Platyhelminthes, Coelentrata. Again if you see the complexity of the body of Platyhelminthes has to come here before, and Coelentrata should have come as the first option. So here also the same thing happens, tissue grade, then followed by you can see organ grade, and then organ system should have come. So this is also vice versa. As a result, third question right option is A. Now let us see the next one. Pick the incorrect statement with respect to sponges. So here we have to see the options which are present here. Let us see the options given: Choanocytes, amoebocytes, skeleton made up of spicules or spongin fibers, hermaphrodites, water vascular system. These are the different options which are given for you people to pick. So let us see here. We are in search of the false statement, or the statement which is not correct. So this is with respect to sponges or porifera. So we are going to see what is a false statement given over here with respect to porifera. So choanocytes and amoebocytes, obviously these are present in porifera. Skeleton made up of spicules or spongin, this is also absolutely right. Hermaphrodites. The meaning of hermaphrodite is nothing but both the sexes are present in the same organism. So in poriferans also the sexes are not separate, they are present in the same organism, both the sexes. So this is also correct. Water vascular system. Now if you see in one look, we will feel this is also the right option because they are mentioned water vascular system. But this is the key word that you have to observe carefully. There are two systems which you have to remember. One is water canal system, one is water vascular system. Okay. This system is found in porifera, that is water canal system. Water vascular system is found in echinodermata. Okay, so you find it in echinodermata. What is the difference between this? Water canal system means if you take the organism's body in this manner, cut it and try to open, the body is having number of pores in this manner. Through the pores, water will enter into a canal which is called sphingosele, and from here the water will go outside. So this is a simple system. That's why it is called water canal system. Whereas if you see it in case of echinodermata, you can see that it has got a series of canal system in this manner, which is interconnected. So it is called water vascular system. So water vascular system does not belong to porifera. That's why the right answer is D. Next, functions of nidoblast. Nidoblast is a structure that is exclusively found in ciliatrates, in ciliatrata or nidaria. So the name nidaria for the phylum comes because of presence of nidoblast. Basically, it is an structure which is used for anchorage, defense, as well as to capture the prey. So it has the capacity to give a sting. It will harm the other organism. That's how it can be used even to capture the prey. And if it is being chased by some predator or some other organism, it can use it for defense and also helps in anchorage. So the right answer over here has to be, so you can see here the options should show 1, 2 and 4. Okay, so options are not shown here properly. That's why let me just tell you the right functions which are done by them: defense and capture of prey. Reproduction is excluded, rest all are included. Next, alternation of generation. Now, what is this alternation of generation? Students, you know about alternation of generation which takes place in case of plants, wherein you know that diploid and haploid generations, they alternate one after the other. A similar thing happens even in case of animals. Here some organisms, they have different body forms, polymorphic what we say. So some structure of the you can say in the life cycle, if you see the physical structure of the body, sometimes they are cylindrical like hydra. These are actually called polyp. Okay, and some they look like the jellyfish, that is umbrella like. These are called medusa. So the same organism may have two different forms when it is in different phases of its life cycle. So the cylindrical structure called polyp is actually a asexually reproducing structure. So it reproduces asexually and results in the formation of medusa. Medusa is a sexually reproducing structure. It is a free swimming structure. It will reproduce sexually to produce what is called polyp. So the generations are alternation of generation, that is sexual to asexual, asexual again to sexual takes place. A very good example is Obelia, where you can see this polymorphism takes place, and this process of alternation of generation is also called metagenesis. So you can see the options. The right word or the right option is metagenesis. Alternation of generation is also called metagenesis. Metamerism, you people know, it is nothing but segmentation of the body. Metastasis, this word we use generally in cancer when the tumor spreads from one site to the other or from one place to the other. Metamorphosis, this is a unique feature that you find in phylum like Arthropoda, where in the life cycle you can see that the organism when it produces the young ones, they might be of one shape. For example, in case of butterflies, when the egg hatch, what comes out is actually a larva. The larva then undergoes some physical changes, okay, in its morphology it will undergo many changes, and then it gets converted into a butterfly, an adult butterfly. So such change in the physical appearance during the life cycle is actually called metamorphosis. So the right option for 6 is C. Now, unique features of phylum Ctenophora. So presence of comb plates and comb jellies, presence of comb plates only, presence of tentacles only, presence of bioluminescence. So if you try to see here, let me just correct, it is absence of bioluminescence. If you try to observe carefully, we will feel this is the right answer as well as this, because we just see bioluminescence and we know that ctenophora, they produce bioluminescence. Just on that basis, we might feel two are correct. But just see what they have given in before that, absence of bioluminescence, that is bioluminescence is absent. Bioluminescence is nothing but illumination which you find in some organisms. They produce light, that is called bioluminescence. So this is actually one of the feature of ctenophora, but they have given it is absent. So this is also wrong. Presence of tentacles only, that is in the members of ctenophora only tentacles are present. This is wrong. Presence of only comb plates, this is also wrong, because they show the presence of comb plates and they are also called comb jellies as well. So the right option is presence of comb plates and comb jellies. Comb jellies is the common name given for ctenophora, and comb plates, if you try to see, this is nothing but, if you try to see an organism or ctenophora, you can see that on its body there are 8 plates present in this manner, on which cilia are also present. So these plates are called comb plates. So the right option for 7 is presence of comb plate and comb jelly, that is option A. Now let us see the phylum having incomplete digestive system is. So here, what is the meaning of incomplete digestive system? If you take the gut as such, or the alimentary canal, if it is having 2 openings, that is mouth and anus, if 2 openings are there for the gut or alimentary canal, the digestive system is said to be a complete digestive system. But here we have to find incomplete digestive system, where the digestive system will have only 1 opening. The opening will act as both mouth and anus. So here this kind of incomplete digestive system is found only in platyhelminthes. Aschelminthes, a good example is roundworm. You are very well aware that it has got anus as well as mouth. Annelida, for example, earthworm, it has got anus as well as mouth. Then the next option which you can see is Protista. Okay, so Protista, it is not at all having a digestive system as such. So this is also wrong. So we have to see the phylum having incomplete digestive system. So these are the wrong options, and the correct one is 8D. Next one, identify the salient features of Aschelminthes from the options given below. You can just try to see bilateral symmetry, triploblastic, alimentary canal, complete and sexual dimorphism. So here, if you try to see the options, the right option is B. The simple reason, bilateral symmetry, that is the body can be divided into 2 equal halves through only 1 plane. Triploblastic, 3 layers of germinal layers. Alimentary canal is complete, presence of anus and mouth. Monoecious, both the sexes are present in the same organism. Okay, this is one more thing. So here you can see that this option which is there, monoecious, this is a wrong option. Aschelminthes, we can try to remember the option roundworm. So roundworm is very well known for what is called sexual dimorphism, where you can identify male and female roundworms separately. So the right answer has to be bilateral symmetry, triploblastic in nature, alimentary canal is complete, and sexual dimorphism is also present. That is, male and female are different. Okay. So this is the 8th question. So now we can just wind up for the day. We have seen some of the important questions which can be asked for CET. Keeping these points and aspects in mind, you can solve as many as questions possible and try to fetch very good result in your CET examination. Thank you.